It may surprise some Buffy fans to know that Spike was meant to be killed off in Season 2, due to Whedon's views on what a vampire should be. This honestly seems quite silly when anyone who's aware of even the slightest literary analysis of Dracula knows how integral themes of sensuality and dominance are to the vampire archetype. It's doubly confusing when considering that, despite what Whedon believed, he wrote Spike and Angelus in a way that fully explores the themes he wished to with vampires as a thematic device. Knowing what Whedon considers what his vampires should represent, it's impossible not to see these ideas of them being issues personified within Angelus being unleashed, as his mocking of Buffy's relationship with his himself Angel, and generally cruel nature towards her, fits very well with what's in many ways a man undermining the feelings of a girl who was a one-time fling for him, foreshadowing Buffy's next major relationship, I guess. In Buffy's resolve to stop Angelus despite what may be required, it seems fairly allegorical of the need to get over a bad relationship, of which will be reversed during Angel's return and exit as a series regular in Season 3. Outside of antagonism to Buffy, Angelus brings forth many problems the intended audience of teenagers and young adults may be concerned with, such as him stealing Drusilla away from Spike, resonating with fears many may have of infidelity. Later flashbacks in Season 2, as well as in Angel, show the manipulation of Angelus mentally breaking Drusilla, not too dissimilar to tactics many possessive people may use to degrade and manipulate someone into submission. This extends beyond relationship matters of taking Drusilla as his own, and onto trying to break others physically, as he attempts when capturing Giles. It also displays a character flaw of arrogance that comes with this though, as this desire to dominate and destroy the relationships of others is his undoing here, with him taking Drusilla being what leads Spike to plotting with Buffy to stop him. His actions, such as ending Jenny's life, not only present his efficiency, but also the ideas of a threat in one's life coming after those they care for at any opportunity. With the teenage focus of the early seasons of Buffy, it's clear why Angelus was arguably the most effective villain at that point. Discussing the contender for that spot. Though many elements on Whedon's philosophy on vampires will come into play later, Spike works well with both traditional and Whedonistic ideas on vampires. If one thing can be considered a problem to overcome in any situation, it's chaos and disorder, which Spike brings to the table initially in breaking the typical formula, most notably through destroying the would-be antagonist that was the annoying one, I mean anointed one. Even during the early stages of his arc, Spike presents atypical traits of a vampire, such as his loyalty and love for Drusilla, that goes beyond mere passion, and we see him bringing chaos into the narrative by being such a wildcard as with his temporary alliance with Buffy to stop Angelus. It's in later seasons that Spike's true value in Whedon's original vision for vampires shows though, as if his vampires are meant to be metaphors of the issues in adolescence and early adulthood, then Spike executed these perfectly as the series went on, and an attraction between him and Buffy developed. The casual relationship they form in Season 6 and Buffy's struggles to end what was a very limited one allows him to serve as a struggle against lust, temptation and addiction, as well as display weakness in Buffy's urges and her belief in being altered by her revival as a coping mechanism for her mentality. All these elements come together when Spike assaults Buffy when she starts to spurn his advances, in what's the inevitable outcome of the type of relationship they had, when writing it around the idea of what a vampire is and how such highly passionate relationships can bring out the worst in either side. If we are to discuss the worth of Spike's narrative chaos, then we can't ignore that of Drusilla either, despite her not being quite as much a driving force to the story as the two other whirlwinds within Season 2. Though a victim of Angelus mentally breaking her, Drusilla still represents some not as sympathetic issues as an obstacle to the main cast. Unlike the other two, Drusilla is adept enough in hypnosis to paralyze and slay the Slayer Kendra, as well as convince Giles he's talking to Jenny. This isn't only a very deadly ability, but also highlights the dark side of far more feminine traits. Those of you who watched my Dragon Ball videos may be aware of me bring to light reading people by maintaining eye contact comes more naturally to women, and bring this to a supernatural extreme with the female of this season's villainous trio makes sense. Drusilla's other villainous ability is in showing the dark side of empathy, with her capability of sensing, feeling and understanding the emotions of others with ease being used for nefarious purposes, such as realizing Giles' love for Jenny in order to torment him. In an age wherein many decry actions with the buzzword of toxic masculinity, which is a fairly nonsensical term for several reasons. Many forget that inherently feminine traits, such as great empathy, can be used to harm others, which makes Drusilla at times as dangerous of a villain as her sire and her sire. All that said, the trio of vampires that make up the antagonists of Season 2 fit very well with Whedon's goals in vampires being the narrative metaphor, more so than he would have thought in the case of Spike. Next time, a video on Season 3 that will provide an analysis on a narrative device that the series used expertly.